What up, what up, what up? So this is the Minding My Creative Business podcast, the number one podcast for creativepreneurs to learn strategy, structure, and self-development. I am your host, Ron Ironic Lee.
And I am your host, ShySpeaks, and I am officially excited in my little calm way of showing it because today you're going to get to unravel the shaker category of what it means to be a creative entrepreneur. Meaning, if you're a life coach, an author, a community builder, a social engineer, like any of that, this is the one for you because we got my boy here. Can I go ahead and introduce him? Since I know they looking, I might as well let them know. So introducing none other than what I would say an author, a faith-based life coach, a speaker, a creator of the 45-day total transformation. Hopefully I'm saying that right, 45-day total transformation. I would say a community builder, and more importantly, just a really, really dope brother. So ladies and gentlemen, introducing BJ Thompson. BJ, what's up, sir?
What up? What up? Thanks for having me. What a great intro.
Well, thank you. Now that's how we would introduce you, BJ. How would BJ introduce himself, though?
Yeah. I'm an author, coach, speaker. Grew up in South Dallas in the 80s in the crack era. And my mom had me at the age of 17. One of my favorite things to do is to help people grow, transform after going through all of the things that I grew up with and having overcome. So very honored to be here. Cannot wait to share with you guys in the audience today.
Okay, listen. Okay, he making it sound calm, but once we get this conversation popping, that's when you're gonna get the juice and the gems and all the wisdom that's packed inside of BJ. The thing we love about creative entrepreneurs, because you take your creativity and you turn it into entrepreneurship, you turn it into a business, you turn it into a service. And a lot of times we see people who are maybe artists, a producer, a painter, something like that. We see them as creators. But if somebody takes time to write a book from scratch, they create it, in my opinion. So it's a whole time of talking about if that's a creative entrepreneur. But to me it is. But then also you have like these other ways of creating, which is like what he said, what I'm passionate about. You take your passion and then you create it into something that can be a service for others, because you can just remain passionate and you don't have to do anything to others. So I just think that's, I think it's dope. Okay, speaking of what I think is dope, it is the fact that a lot of people who enter your world now, they enter in through 45-day total transformation, or they enter in because they've seen something that you said, like a nugget for life, or that they saw on social media, or and they saw you at an event. So they come in right now, and we're going to talk about those things a little bit later today. But I want to start off by talking about the fact that you are a community builder. I said that earlier, and what I mean by that is that you helped start the 116 movement. So, and here's the reason why I want to talk about that is because yes, it is a movement. Everybody starts a movement, and they were able to make impact because of it, but they were also able to monetize because of it. So at the end of the day, if your creativity is able to be monetizable, you're heading towards that entrepreneurship. So I want to talk about that. But you don't got to talk about the finances of it just yet. But But first of all, just to create a movement, period. How does somebody actually do that? Like, okay, since you've done it, right?
Yeah. So, one of the things that's interesting about being a creative is oftentimes creativity is just about expression to most people. Most people like to just share their thoughts, their stories, their voice, their background. And it takes a structure to organize that into something that other people can share. So whether that's writing a song, recording a video, creating a podcast, it takes structure in order to do those things. And typically, it's relationships. If you're going to be, working with someone to do those things. And so one of the things that happened in starting the 116 movement, which has reached millions of people around the world, it started simply because creatively we wanted to help kids. It wasn't about creating a record label. It wasn't about creating a global movement that reached millions of people. It was about helping 40 people at a time. and 40 teenagers, actually. And so I think oftentimes people downplay what they could do with a little, and be faithful with a little, and then it becomes a lot more than what you expect. And so part of starting a movement, and sometimes even a global movement, has nothing to do with you wanting to be viral, you wanting to be a household name. It's literally you just want to be excellent in a service, create a service for a specific demographic, and then that begins to catch fire, similar to what Facebook did and Mark Zuckerberg and whatnot. So, yeah, I think that's the beginning of a movement.
Yeah. Now, okay. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Shy. Go ahead.
Okay, and then another nugget that you shared just then, without trying to, probably, is that people think of creativity as their way of expression, but also it's giving somebody, like, you want to share, right? I'm the creative and I want to share, but then it's also, I feel like a road to creating a movement is that you realize that you have to give somebody an opportunity to share in it with you, is what you were just saying.
Yeah.
So
that's
when you
that's called your target audience.
Yeah. I mean, the target audience, right? This particular group, though, I don't want to just share something with them. I want them to share in something with me. Like, we're sharing in something together. I think that was really, I noticed that. What were you about to say, Ron?
No, that was good. I guess I wanted to, once again, I know we know what the 116 movement is. And I know this interview is not about the 116 movement. We're going to get into some other things. Sure. However, I do want you to kind of let the audience know what the 116 movement was. And yeah, you mentioned like the initial intent was, you said 40 people at a time. We were only trying to, we were looking to impact 40 teenagers at a time. So yeah, let us know what that movement is. Just a little bit. I don't want to harp on it too long.
Yeah, so the 116 movement is essentially a movement of faith, people who are unashamed about their faith and living it out in a way that is authentically who they are. And so myself, my friend Lecrae, we're both working at a juvenile detention center, and we just wanted to help the kids there, man, honestly, because the kids were more like what we saw ourselves as kids, right? So we grew up in the hood. We grew up around, gangs. We grew up in these really challenging environments, but then walking with God changed our life. And so he and I started working there just to work with kids in that arena. And we're like, man, what kind of gifts can we share with them? Man, we can take them on, visits, expose them to the world. We can share with them our faith, and then hopefully give them some life skills. And so in just doing that small thing over and over again, one day Lecrae walks up to me and he says, man, let's do like a little CD. This is before Apple iTunes, streaming music, Spotify, all of that. And he said, man, let's just do this CD so that as these kids are leaving out of this facility, they have something to take back home with them. And so we put together this record, we get all of our friends to kind of contribute to it. And we went from, working with 40 kids, giving them these CDs to take home, to just have music to relate to their story, their background and narrative. And new trend of life, to 4 years later, millions of people having that in their hand. And now all of a sudden, this movement grew into merch, grew into shows, huge shows, grew into record labels and record deals, and meeting all these influencers all over the world. And so essentially the 116 movement is a faith movement, but really it's a people's movement of transform folks who are seeking to live out their faith in a more holistic and authentic way.
Wow. Yeah. So that desire for impact came first. It wasn't like, okay, we got this music or whatever. How we going to get people to galvanize around this music and build this community around the music? It was like, no, we want to create impact. So what can we do to create impact? Right? Like that's just, I think that's great, because a lot of times I think people put the cart before the horse, where it's like, okay, we're trying to do something else opposed to make that impact. That impact came first. So that's one thing where I appreciate that, because even I have a similar story I'll share a little bit later, where it was like, okay, how can we make more impact opposed to just us doing this thing here? What can we do to make more impact? And then a movement was created. So I like that. I like that.
And that's where people resonate at.
Mm-hmm.
People don't resonate with something that's shiny, that looks good, that's packaged well. People resonate with what's authentic and something that they can relate to, that feels like it's resolving a problem. And so for us, again, this is pre-internet. We didn't even have, it wasn't a big internet to market this on, right? There was no Facebook, right? So just think, we're doing all of this with no internet, massive internet, no Facebook, no social media, no TikTok, no YouTube. Like, we were creating moves before then because we had the people in mind. And then when you get it, it feels authentic, right? Now, what's challenging is sometimes the thing that you assume you understand, you don't. You have to get close to it, right? So we had to do the marketing and the messaging and all these different things. And I think people really relate to something about this makes me feel heard, makes me feel seen. It's an authentic thing. And I think this is what every creative entrepreneur is looking for, is that before you go to this huge marketing platform and you go to upload your thing, to write that book, make sure it's something that's real. Be real. Tell your authentic story. Give your authentic experience. Because when people in the audience, your target audience, hears it, it's almost like a rallying cry around something that they themselves can relate to. So, yeah, that's what I would say, is just making sure things are real before you mass produce them. Because then once people grasp on, they can just sense, oh, there's something special about this. And it's because you yourself are being transformed.
Yeah. And then there's this thing, like you said, seen and heard. People want to be seen and heard, but also then you're now giving them something to belong to, right? They belong in this group, and people want to feel like they belong. And you didn't have to necessarily be perfect to belong. You kind of had to be related to the things that they're talking about. But I'm just not ashamed, and I'm going to let that work. I'm working that out. And then they give me materials, they give me interviews, videos, they give me trainings, they give me merch, all this kind of stuff to continue to spur on. I belong here. So I think that's cool. A question though, and this is just you, because you've had, the opportunity to look at this hindsight, right? So you know how most artists have some type of a lot of artists have some type of fans or something like that around them. How important do you think that is? But I'm sorry, in this case, you guys had like a group of people, and this group of people had this movement around them. How important do you think it is for people to at least try to create that ecosystem around them, or this movement around them? Like, I know you said it should come authentic, but do you think that it's important to like the overall like profitability of whatever you're doing, the overall impact of whatever you're doing? Do you think that the movement is just as viable, or I can just do the thing without that? But
I mean, it depends on your intent. I mean, if your intent is to simply impact the people in front of you, then I think you just do that. A lot of us, this is what I'll say. A lot of us are rushing things to market that need to be refined in proof of concept. And so the challenge with that is you lose the authenticity. It's like a restaurant. I was telling my daughter about some of the restaurants from the 80s and 90s. I was like, man, there was a point in time when KFC was great.
Yeah.
It was like, it was 31 herbs and flavors. It was a great experience. And then over time, they diluted their recipe to where what it once was, those who knew the authenticity don't even recognize it. And so I think something about this tension that we need to hold of like how much authenticity as we move things into the market, that's called quality control, right? And so too many of us are rushing to market. We're not even letting things simmer long enough to pick up, man, what makes this good? Are we truly impacting people? Do we have a heart to share something about ourselves that's going to move the needle in somebody's life? We're just trying to be viral, trying to be marketable, trying to be this and trying to do that. And then all of a sudden, we create this huge blob of a mess and we become Kanye, right? where, you know, you got these people following you now. Like you said, you were going to do the choirs and you're going to do this, but then you pivot and say, no, I'm going to do explicit material. So it's like, you actually have not thought through cohesively long enough what you were going to do in terms of how you want to impact people. You just rushed it to market. You said it, y'all did it, you started doing it, and then you end up creating something that long term does not match the intent the impact that you desire to make. And so what I would say is, it's a tension between creating proof of concept and letting something simmer long enough to like learn its ingredients, understand what it's doing. That's, what do they call that? Testing, clinical
trials.
Clinical trials.
Yeah, clinical trials before they'll rush Fin got to the market. This before they were doing recalls. Right. People needed that solution, but you got to do clinicals. You got to like test it on small groups of people to see how it impacts them long term before you massively do it. So I think that's the tension every creative entrepreneur owner is going to have to wrestle through is, you rush things to market too fast. You really have not conceived its impact long term on others. And it could backfire and be completely opposite of what you intended.
Yeah. No, that's and that's always that dichotomy, right? Where it's like, as a creativepreneur, we're trying to be creative, but then there's the entrepreneur side. And I always encourage people, like, in your creativity, be very genuine and authentic. Don't bring the business into your creating, because now you're going to taint it, right? Do your creative first, and then when you have your authentic creativity, whatever that is, then take that to market, and then market and do what you got to do. But if you go with it with business in mind, it's not going to be genuine. You're going to cut back on ingredients, right? You're going to do, okay, what can I do to increase the profit margin and all these things, because now you're going into the creative process thinking about the wrong thing, right? So I like that. I like that.
You know, one of the things that I was getting out of it, which is like probably crazy for someone who's watching this, and they're like, man, I want to be a community builder. I'm gonna go get with somebody, whether it's an individual artist, so I'm gonna go get with this company, whatever entity it is, and I'm gonna help them make this global movement. And I get to get game from BJ, someone who has created a thing that went from 40 people to millions of people. And I think it's like, dang, he's not telling me how to go to millions. Actually, he is telling you how to go to millions. He's saying, simmer it, let it cook, and make sure that you have the right ingredients before you try to scale something, right? So it's 40 at a time, 40 at a time, 40 at a time. And how impactful were we with this 40 before we started doing 100 at a time? And then before we start doing and then after, and if at some point it takes and it sparks wildfire, then let it be that. But the ingredients of how to make a movement is what he's saying, which is right here. You got to simmer it and make sure that you give it time to cook, and stop trying to rush it to be this global thing before it was impactful on a scale that you could actually manage.
Yeah. And focus on the people and not yourself. I think a lot of times us creators focus on ourselves. So I like that aspect in what you said as well, where it's like, no, you got to be focused on the people and making impact on the people, and it'll grow. And that was 4 years is not a long period of time. You said it grew to millions in a 4-year span.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I think, like, you know, and I want us to get on to some of the other aspects that you do, because I know you got even more to share as it relates of being a coach and a speaker and an author. And there's a business of being a speaker and a business of being a coach and a business of being an author and all of those things. And I'm going to ask some questions that kind of really help people who are aspiring or who want to level things up for themselves. But before we do, I kind of want to say something here. A lot of times people look at, like, I want to, you saying you want to impact people, because that's why you want to make the movement, but really you just want to be famous. You just want to be famous fast. You don't want the movement for the impact. You want the movement for the fame. And that's not what I'm hearing here. And I don't think that that's the authentic way to do it. And we have a proof of concept right here sitting with us. You got anything else before we pay these bills, as they normally say?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, you know, and you need people on your team that have that tension, right? So there's people, they're governing how much influence and impact you have. We typically, there are people who gravitate towards being known, right? So they want everybody to know about something. And there are people who gravitate towards things being good, right? So they're going to ensure quality control. This is the relationship that we all have to have. This is my relationship with Lecrae. It's like, I don't really care about it being known. You do. I care about it being good. And you have to like partner with people around that. This is why hiring marketing agencies is so important. Or you got to know which one do you care about, right?
Right.
Or, going out of your, go ahead.
So would you say that was you say that's your relationship with Craig? Would you say that would be the role of any of this individual who wants to be a community builder, who wants to help spark something? They have to be the one that's keeping that in mind, because the entity or the individual is probably just want to share their thing. Would you say?
I'm saying that sometimes you don't have all within yourself. That's what partnerships are about. Right. This is why you guys have co-hosts, right? You bring a certain unique point of view to the show that allows the audience to consume it with a balance in a particular way. And what I'm saying is, what happens when you grow a company, a business, a movement, you're having to learn how to work with someone who potentially is not like you. And that in itself is what allows it to be good to the broader audience. Again, we're all going to gravitate towards their thing. For me, I've always known that whenever I open up my mouth, people are going to listen. I've always known that since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
What I've never cared about was being massively known. I could stay private my whole life and walk in a room and know that I can influence anybody in that room, right? As opposed to other individuals who have to be seen, and they want everybody to know their name. They want people to look at their shoes. They want them to think that they're special just by looking at them, right? And there's nothing wrong with either one of those things, right? You just have to know your disposition so that when you're going to go launch that book, start that company, create that movement, you have to know, in business they call it, what is your fiduciary responsibilities? What are the things that we need to hold you accountable for and we need to lay this out so that we can have expectation that you bring this tension within our company. So I think one thing that's very important is just partnership. You have to figure out, who are the particular partners do you need? Do you need to hire somebody that's going to do quality control and make sure that your CRM is together and that you have really healthy automations? Do you need to hire an ad agency, a marketing agency? It's just about, and this is the word that's coming to me, you have to become painfully self-aware when you're a creative entrepreneur business owner. You have to know the things that you know, and you have to own the things that you don't know. And the more that you're able to do this, the stronger you will be as you lean out in your business or your product or service.
Man. Listen, go ahead.
No, that's good. That's good. Listen, we're going to delve into that a little bit more. It is time for us to pay the bill. So we're going to take a pause, but we're going to come back because, that's a gem right there. That's a gem right there, BJ. All right. What's the irony?
It's because it's us in different color clothing. I mean, listen, we've been doing a lot of talking, and we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to make a statement as well.
Because we've seen people make statements with their athletic apparel. We've even seen people make statements as entrepreneurs. But one thing I haven't seen is somebody make a statement as a creative entrepreneur. So what we've done is we have given you an opportunity to make a statement as a creative entrepreneur.
Okay. So if they want to make sure that they're rocking that creativepreneur gear, where can they go get that?
You can go get that gear from whatstheirony.com. And welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So we want to keep it going, right? Like you've been dropping some jewels and whatnot on this interview thus far. And just in regards to just kind of building the movement, you mentioned a couple of things right before we break about a CRM, right? I don't know. Some of our audience members might not know what a CRM is. I know, Shy knows. But we're gonna delve a little bit into some of those systems and processes for you to be able to be impactful in what you were doing then, but also now what you're doing now as you are walking into the author and coach space, and then with your 45-day challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we know you say you'd introduce yourself as, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a faith-based coach, and so forth and so on. But earlier we talked a lot about community building. I just got to ask, quick question before we get into some of those things and the business behind that. Would you consider yourself a social engineer or community builder? How would you? Okay.
I do now.
Okay.
My personal mission statement is develop people, create culture. That's my personal mission statement. I develop people and I create culture. And so I didn't know that that's what I was for a long time because I thought it was just a fluke.
Yeah.
But what started to happen was every time I would go to a new community, a new city, a new neighborhood, it just would it was almost an automatic thing. I thought it was normal. And then one day I actually was hosting an event. I started a network, and somebody said, I've never seen anybody so keen at creating community the way you are. He said, it's a weird thing. It's like you can create a community out of nothing. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess that makes sense. I guess I social engineer things all the time. But I hadn't owned it yet. I just thought, oh man, I guess I have this gift of communication and development. I never saw myself as a social engineer. And so I'm owning that more these days, but it took me it took me like 20 years to see that gift as oh, this is a gift.
And it's good because technically the term will probably be social impact engineer or something like that, because I think social engineers, they done took over it in the cyber world, but a social impact engineer, it will be hard to consider yourself that because you haven't had proof of concept to see, have I actually been socially impacting anything at all? So anyway, I think it's cool. Okay, so I'm ready to help the people who are here because they're like, oh, creative, I want to get the business on. How do you do the thing? Like, we know you create culture, but you also done created like this life coach thing. You speak. I'm sure you get paid to speak, and you have books. Maybe you have free material, but I'm sure you have paid books. And so what I hear is that while you don't love to be like wildly popular or need to be, you can be private because you're great in the one-on-one, so to speak, but in your one-on-one, you kind of create community. Anyway, I guess why okay, so I guess I'm trying to see like this one-on-one aspect, and then there's this community aspect. Is there a strategy for you when it comes to being like a life coach? Because a life coach is more one-on-one. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily creating culture or anything like that. So like, what's your strategy when you're like, okay, I'm not in culture creating mode, I'm impacting the person?
Yeah. So, what I've done over the years, it took me a long time. Remember, my personal mission statement is develop people, create culture. And there comes a point where you get so good at developing people that culture has to be the byproduct of doing so. And so what I've done is started what's called the Builders Network, which is a collective of individuals from all over the country, working professionals, and they're all in a community. They also have partnerships and small groups. And within those groups, they support one another along their personal, professional goals. So it's all basing let's say your Q1 goals, right? People say, oh, what are your Q1 goals? That's typically a corporate thing. That's not something that people hold you personally responsible for. In this network, we have accountability partners, we have small groups, and the larger network that are like tracing all your goals. We're like following you Q1. What are the top 3 things you're trying to accomplish in Q1? And then you work with a coach, but then you're also in the community and you have an accountability partner. And so it just took me, again, a couple of years to resolve this tension Because again, at a certain point, you have to scale. You have to be able to serve more people. Or if you wanted to, and this is just for the coaches watching, you could just do high ticket sales with coaches. So you work with entrepreneurs, business owners, and whoever for high ticket. So let's say I only wanted to work one-to-one, man, I just raised my price because now I'm teaching you infrastructure, or this is the professional athlete. And so it really, you don't have to if you don't want to. Again, remember, go back to the intent. It doesn't always have to get big, but if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to get paid. Right. So it doesn't have to be big.
Right.
You can keep it small.
Right.
But you do have to get paid.
You're getting paid somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, you got to get
So
paid.
you just let people know something. I don't know. I'm hoping y'all listen. He just said, listen, if you want to stick with the one-on-one, which you can, he's saying you're perfectly okay with sticking to one-on-one. However, if you're going to stick to one-on-one, you got to increase your price, right?
Yep.
You can't continue to do a low ticket and do one-on-one thinking that you're going to be able to monetize it effectively to sustain or whatever the case may be for the business. Like you said, in order to scale it, you got to go high ticket. Or if you do, right now we're going from that one-to-one, and we're going to talk about that one-to-many.
But high key, he really just gave them two different coaching models.
He
really
did.
High key. He said you can stay. It may not be a lot, but it is still something that you're getting paid for. And then you have to figure out a way to scale. If I'm not scaling my price up, I'm scaling this network, right? Or this group of people.
Yes.
So real quick, BJ, run some numbers for me. So let's say, I'm gonna give you two examples. $1,000 life coach deal versus a $10,000 life coach. $10,000 life coach is the idea where you say you raise your price. I only work with people who can pay $10,000 a month because I'm working life and professional. We see the business model there. Or if I need to scale, I go to 20,000. But if you decide to say, hey, I don't want to work with people who can only pay 40 and 50 and $100,000, I still want to continue to make this life on. Like, what's that other model that you mentioned? Like, how do you scale even within the one-on-one?
So so again, we're talking business models for entrepreneurs, coaches. So the first thing is you have to want to be an entrepreneur owner, or you want to be a coach who then has a business. And I think people have hobbies. Most people have a hobby. So when they're listening to these things, they don't intend on actually making it something that is for real.
Yeah.
So you have to get out the mindset that this is not a hobby. This is my profession.
Right.
I am by profession a coach. I am by profession a entrepreneur. I'm a social entrepreneur owner. I am not somebody. This is not a cool thing that I do on the side. This is what I do for a living. And I think once you get out of that, then it's more possible to talk about these different models, because now you're willing to risk to gain a reward, right? There is a risk that comes along with it. There's a risk in time. There's a risk in proof of concept. You actually may not be good at those things. You may not be a social engineer. And now you have to go assemble a team, or you have to repivot or restructure. And so that's just a side note. But I was just going to say, specifically with these two different models of coaching, just think of it like this. Let's say your net income for the month, let's say you need to bring in $20,000. Okay, this is a decent baseline. Okay, people say 30 to 50K a month. You have to think, how many units of this coaching do I need to sell to bring this in? Right. So if let's say I'm doing 50, let's say I'm doing $100. I'm doing $100 per client. And I say, your monthly membership fee is $100. That means that you're going to have to serve for 20,000. What's that? 10?
200, I think is. Yeah.
200. That means you need 200 members in that program at 100. It may be even more than that. You can just check the numbers.
Yeah.
It's 200. I just did the math.
You need 200 people who are signed up, and you have to have retention.
Right.
That means your back end strategy and retention has to be there, and recruitment. So you need a recruitment and a retention strategy to keep you at your baseline. Or you can say, I'm going to do a $5,000 ticket. Let's just be super practical. But this $5,000 ticket is going to be on how to generate revenue in a business. That value proposition gives you more ability to say, I'm going to charge you $5,000, but you're going to make $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, right? That's a great deal as a coach. So now you only need 4 clients in that model, right? So now the difference is, on one side, you're saying, I'll give you the systems, the processes, the practices, and the accountability and coaching to make sure you stay in line with your goals. On the other side, it says, I'm going to give you the infrastructure that allows you to generate your money. And so what I would say is, it's all about what can you scale. Now, is it easier to go and get 4 clients at $5,000? That's easier to do. But you're going to have to know business inside out.
Right.
All the revenue, distribution, the CRMs, the email sales marketing, and the funnels. Like, there's a lot of different things. Your accounting, your profit loss, your administrative services. There's like a lot of line items moving around that thing and staying true to that vision of what you're doing, which, again, you can do it. It's just you need a coach or a mentor or something in order to give people the confidence that you can create proof of concept. You already have the proof of concept to lead them in those ways. So that's what I would say is, as you're working to build those out, it's just which one are you're more easily able to do. Some people have big followings online and they convert easy. So they got a podcast or they got a big following, on Instagram and whatever, and people are gravitating towards them. Maybe they can pick up 10, 20, new members to their 100, subscription club. That's easy for them.
Right.
So maybe that's your model. You're just going to have to create automations and systems that support that growth and retention.
So you gave us 2 models, right? So you gave us, if you're $1,000, that I would say that's a low ticket, and a $10,000 is a high ticket, or $20,000, right? So at $20,000 is the high ticket. Is what you need. I need 5. I'm sorry. High ticket is 5,000. I need 4 people to get to that 20,000. If I have 1,000 people, I need to get 20. I need to be able to coach 20 people a month. And then you have to look inwardly. And what you said earlier, maybe I'm not this social impact engineer type of person. I may not have the bandwidth and the ability to serve 20 people. It may be easier for me to serve 4, but if I serve 4, I have to make sure I have enough value to be given $5,000 worth of value. You want to have some integrity there, so that you can be delivering on. I'm gonna just charge $5,000, but you're giving $100 worth of life coaching and all that kind of stuff. No, you want to make sure you're giving them a return on this $5,000 investment. And so, if you're listening, this is what I'm thinking about, and how my mind thinks of it is like, you can continue to do 1,000 at a time, but maybe I don't need to see 20 people. What he's saying is, there's this network. I can have this network, 200 people who are in $100 a month, and I get them in at 1,000 a pop. And after 1,000, at that point, I say the next step here is to go into the mentorship. The membership. You're in the membership now. It was only 1,000 because I wanted it to be affordable or whatever. And then now you're in the membership, and everybody I coach winds up in the membership. Unless they want some more one-on-one time, then they can come back. And then at this point, I now have 200 people in a $100 membership. That's $20,000. Plus I'm steadily getting people in at $1,000. It was there if you were listening. It was there.
It's there.
And listen, let me also take a couple steps back to kind of help you guys with this as well. Because I know y'all listening is like, oh, this is a lot. I got to do all that. If you would listen before we went to the break, he mentioned this concept called who, not how, right? You don't got to figure out how to do all this stuff. You can find you some who's that can assist you with that, because he was just saying, you may not have the capacity to do everything. You may not even have the desire to do. You just want the end result. So you have to identify who are some who's that I can bring on that can do the hows for me or figure the hows out. Now, I would encourage you, you need to understand some of the hows, but you don't got to necessarily do it all, because once again, we're only one person. You're only one person. As a coach, you're one person unless you have a coaching network and you have other coaches that can come in and coach for you. We've seen that model as well. But yeah, like everything that he's mentioning, don't get overwhelmed thinking that you have to do it yourself. You can find somebody to assist you. Going back to that being highly self-aware. You have to know your strengths, your weaknesses, and all these things to be a creativepreneur.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know what I would say is this is where consultants and contractors come into play. Go get you a consultant. Let them look at what you have and let them break it down into like data. Right? You want your stuff broken down. You want measurable outcomes, and you want them to go and to be able to put language around what you're building and then what you're missing.
Right.
Then you may have a contractor come in and they're just building out the missing piece. Yeah. It's like, oh, the reason why you can't serve 200 clients in this model isn't because you're not a good coach. You don't have good automations. Right. Or you need to hire other administrators or coaches to run this, where again, as an entrepreneur, the goal, unless you're just building companies and then selling them later, the goal is to be an entrepreneur owner, right? Yeah. You can't be an entrepreneur your whole life because you're not going to make anything that's like sustainable. You want to be an entrepreneur who's moving towards becoming an owner. And so part of this concept is you're going to be working in the business for a short period of time, so then you can work on the business, right? And essentially all that means is you may have to answer phone calls, send emails, do all the busy work that happens with just learning, getting something out the ground. And you want to do this because you need to know the business inside out. You need to have a general but strong idea of everything that happens to make what you do work in the most basic sense. You may not know all the passwords and know this and know that, but you do know that if this person leaves, I know who to bring in. I need to know exactly what they need to do. Once you get a good concept of what needs to happen in order to make your business, service, product profitable, then you work on the business. That means, what are the operational systems that make this work? Again, I mentioned a CRM just for your customers and managing them, an email sales funnel. You need a funnel. What's going to bring people in? What's your marketing? Are you doing a podcast? Are you doing a show? Are you speaking? You need some way to bring people in a specific target, and then you want to automate it. You cannot do every part of the business. You need other people who are doing it, and then you're checking it off. Oh, this is good. This is the profit loss. And now I'm going to tweak these things to see how can I now take my creative energy as an owner, entrepreneur, and then create new ways in think tanks to generate revenue. And so again, I'm not trying to be too detailed, but these are the things that I wish that I knew when I was starting out as an entrepreneur. No one was telling me, oh, you need to go get a consultant or use a contractor. Instead of doing that, I thought, man, I got to do it all myself. And this is just failing. I don't know why this is failing. Well, it's failing because you don't have a good structure. You don't know the structure. And because you don't understand structure, now your dream is at risk of dying. And that's something that we can't have for great coaches and entrepreneurs.
Right. Yeah. The cool thing that you said to me is that I need to not necessarily, earlier you talked about being aware of yourself, but I need to be aware of everything in the business. So then I can then say, I'm not so good at this and I'm not so great at that, or this person is greater. They'll be perfect at this. And then we can still continue to serve these 200 people. A simple example could be if I call BJ right now and I ask him to talk to people about their life and get them get them some concepts that'll move them forward. On Monday, he can talk. On Tuesday, he can talk. On Wednesday, he can go for 3 hours. So he has the bandwidth for the people in that regard. But here's what he may not have. And I'm follow my example. He may not have the ability to say, I need to post in here and say, hey, we're going live at 5. I need to create the graphic that lets people know Wednesdays is at 7. I need to send the text message out, the blast.
Oh,
like, hey,
you read my mail. Oh, okay. Shashi, you read my mail.
You know what I'm
Go
saying?
ahead. Come on.
Yeah, so that means that's cool. I need to contract somebody in that particular area who is great at that. They can whip a graphic together. They can send out a text, or email, e-blast, communications. And then now with us partnering and working together, we can now serve this group of people. And so I just thought that was really good. That was a really good point that you said earlier about like making sure that there's partnership. The goal of entrepreneurship is, we always say, is to kind of get ourselves out of the business, but really great businesses are responsible for helping other people eat as well. When you talk about people, I used to work for GM and all that kind of stuff. GM has been responsible for creating jobs. When you are an entrepreneur, yes, you're serving the people, but you're creating jobs as well. And so, yeah, there's that aspect as well. So how can I create jobs if I'm trying to do it all by myself? I'm creating a job because I realized the area where somebody else could probably be better than me in that, and then I bring them in and we work together and we work the mission so that the thing still happens and it doesn't die with just me. Yeah. Okay. The other thing that you said, and I know we got to get ready to wrap this conversation up, but the other thing you said is, you talked about marketing, you talked about systems, and how do you get people in? So I want to go in and break down what he was saying. So earlier in our example, we were talking about how would I get people in this membership? Well, maybe you came in the membership because I initially coached you, $1,000 coaching package. And then after that, I said, hey, let's get in the membership because you're going to have this community and accountability and all that. But here's the question. How do I get people into my life coaching? How do I get them there? So BJ, you have this one thing called the 45-day transformation. And I don't know if you could tell us the 45-day challenge, total transformation.
Yep.
Is that something that is the thing? We know how we get into the membership from the life coaching, but how do people get into the life coaching? Which is that 45-day challenge a way for people to be exposed to what you offer? Or is that something?
100%. Yes, it's definitely one of our channels, and it was unexpectedly one of our channels. Again, I didn't understand distribution channels, and I didn't understand the marketing of it. And one of the things about the challenge, because I write courses, right? So I'll be like, man, what did I learn from this? Or what has been painful for me? So I'll write a course, and then I'll have my team automated, package it, and then we'll design it and credit rollout and everything else. When I started doing the 45-day challenge, which is a holistic 45-day it's a re-education on food, a re-education on relationships, it's a re-education on spirituality and how you use these things in order to improve your life. When I wrote it, I don't think I understood the magnitude, the impact that it would have when people seeing real life people transform so physically. So just seeing people lose, one of my clients lost more than 100 pounds. And when you see her, you're just like, you can't believe it. You think it's like a hoax, but then it's real, because then you'll see a whole slew of other people in this program. And that small step people take, that's a one-time purchase, encourages people. It gives them the confidence to become a monthly member in the health coaching program. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to join the Transformer Network. Well, then I'll say, you know what? I also have this other private coaching called the Builders Network. Man, I think you'd be a great candidate for it. People go through it and go, man, this is really cool. And I'll say, well, you know what? We do an event once a year. This is all true. So I'm not making it up hypothetical. Called the Builders Retreat. Come out to Atlanta. I want to hang out with you. So people come out to Atlanta. Oh man, this is great. I mean,
Hold
again,
on,
this is
not gonna run past it like that. This
Go
real
ahead.
Builders Retreat. So one, you got this side, and two, you got this side. But what is the Builders Retreat? Give us that real quick. What is so? You're saying you created an in-person event?
Yes. Yes. So from this online experience to in-person event. So it moves from, I saw this in an ad. I saw this on Facebook. I saw this wherever. And I took this program and I'm experiencing your coaching virtually. Oh man, this worked. I can't believe this worked. My next phase is then I'm going to invite you into another step towards commitment. So that was a one time. You can leave it and be done. Oh, I did it. It's only 45 days. Once I invite you into the next phase and you take a step towards me, I'll say, hey, I want you to become a member of my Builders Network. And this is what we do. You'll get an accountability partner, a small group, and then coaching all around your personal professional goals. Oh, now I'm online, and now it's not 45 days. This is a 12-month monthly commitment where I'm getting online coaching, right? So you move into that phase and you go, man, this is working. I'm watching my life take these metric changes forward. And we use SMART goals. So it's not like it's do you feel better? It's you can draw a line in your transformation. So then what I'll say is, hey, we do once a year an in-person experience with the members of this network. So now you come out to this in-person experience, this group event. Now it's not online. Now it's in person. Now you're getting hugs. Now we're talking all through the night. Now we're going to hang out, doing the park, and now it's starting to sink in. Oh, this is real.
Yeah. This
is not a facade. This is not somebody talking cool and giving me things. Remember when I go back to that authenticity, this is authentic. Yeah. Oh, I'm up close now, right? So then the individuals in that, I say, hey man, I'm going to do a trip once or twice a year, and I'm going to go overseas. I want you to go with me. And this is going to be $4,000. So you go from paying your $100 one time to your monthly life coaching, could be that could be $100 a month, to a $700 ticket to come to the retreat. So here's a $4,000 event. I want you to come. But listen, every time we under promise, we over deliver. And every time we do it, you say, every time I get close to you, I watch this thing happen. So what I would say is that's a funnel, right? That's literally a funnel. What I'm making every time you take a step towards me, I'm going to deliver something even better or greater for you. And that's just what you have to draw out as you begin to develop your business and your strategy.
Yeah, that's that value ladder, right? You're taking them on a journey. Like I have this in mind that I want my client, or however you phrase it, how I want them to experience and go through, or this is the outcome. But to get to that outcome, we got, okay, maybe you may heard my book or read my book. Then you came into the 45-day challenge, the 45-day challenge. So yeah, you're taking them on that step to get them closer. That's dope. I thank you for that. Listen.
And they're improving along the way. This is not we're explaining to you what the business behind of it is in case you want to know the business. But what he said is, these are SMART goals. These are real measurable changes that we're having. And people are seeing that their lives are better because of the 45-day challenge. Their life is better because of the accountability group. Their life was better because of the retreat. Their life is, all the more enriching and just fun. And because of the overseas or out of town, it's there's some actual improvement and some measurable improvements that are there. And so, yes, there's a monetization behind it because it costs to run this business, but he's delivering, and we want to make sure you're delivering as a coach.
Yeah, that's right.
He's helping people, right? So there's this Zig Ziglar, quote where he talks about the benefit of helping people. So it says, you can have everything in life you want if you would just help other people get what they want. And that's kind of what it seems like you're doing, where it's like, I'm helping people get what they want, and that's helping me to live the life or whatever that I want, because I'm able to monetize my gift. You said I've been like this since I was a kid. I've known I was going to do these things as a kid, not knowing the full gravity of everything. So no, that's just powerful. Listen, we want to continue this conversation, right? We are definitely have exhausted our time. We want to have you back. Can I get you to commit to coming back on the MMCB podcast? BJ?
Sure, absolutely.
He's gonna ask you right here where the people can see you said yes. So
right.
So it's coming because he committed right here.
He committed here. So but no, thank you. I want to personally thank you for your time and information, the wealth of knowledge that you've shared with everybody. This has been phenomenal. Before we let you go though, is there any last thing you just want to leave the people with, right? Out of everything, because you gave a lot, but just this last, until we see next time, what you want to lead the people with?
Yeah, I would just say for the people, get close to the people that are growing, right? You know, we're all, Drake has a line, he said, glowing. He said, all your hashtags, are you just happy and glowing? I would just say, make it a point to intentionally get around people who are growing, people who are inspiring, and make that a regular part of your life. Don't allow yourself to just exist. When you feel yourself drifting, get around the people who are growing, and then attach yourself by reading books, picking up courses. Don't be afraid to pay for a course. Invest in you, and it doesn't matter if it's good or not. You're only looking for one thing. You are investing in you, and you're hoping to pull out one thing that improves the needle of your life. And so, don't be afraid of that. And make sure you check out BJ-Thompson.com. That's where you can pick up my book. Super proud of that. You can find it everywhere: Target, Walmart, Barnes and Nobles. I'm actually writing a few other books right now. I'm in the process of kind of sketching out some future books. But I'm excited. I really feel like this is my time. I feel like I'm really moving from that develop people to creating culture and just doing that in a more broad way. So super excited about that.
Listen, and I have to concur. I said BJ is a buddy of mine, a friend. We go way back, but I have books that he's written. I've attended and seen in-person seminars and workshops, and 45-day transformation has transformed people. Go follow the hashtag. I'm telling you, the books, they change, they make an impact. And one of the things that he said earlier, because if you're watching this, you're a creative entrepreneur and you're like, I just wanted the tips. But he said, go get you a coach as well. Go get you a consultant as well, because that's going to help. So I'm telling you, go tap in further with him. This is only a snippet. I can't wait to have you back for part 2. Thank you so much from me as your little sis in the faith and your friend. And also, while I'm thanking people, I want to thank everybody who's been watching this entire episode up until this point. Thank you to the creativepreneurs out there who are investing in themselves by watching this podcast. If it has been valuable to you, do the thing, like it, comment, and matter of fact, go over to wherever you listen to this podcast, if it's not on YouTube, and actually leave a review. Listen,
So on that note, we are going to close it out, but y'all know how we close it out. If y'all been rocking with us, y'all know, right? Shy going to lead us in this mantra that she leads us in, right? So are you ready, Shy, to lead us in this mantra so we can get on out of here?
I am. Before we get out of here, I want everybody to repeat after me. I want you to say it out loud. All it takes is intention. Consistency. And laser focus. To mind my creative business.
On
All
that note, we will see you guys next time.
Peace.